Sir, you were explaining solid state.
Yes, sir.
We were revising solid state, sir.
But we also have started the electrochemistry, right?
We completed still n lambda equals to 2d sin theta.
That is n lambda is equal to 2d sin theta is not there actually. I could not see any question coming from this in the IIT main exam or advance in the 2019 and 2021. Therefore, I am not expecting any question. Why to discuss that which is not there in the syllabus? Time waste. But if you want, we can discuss about it. You take a metal, you take a say, crystal, suppose. Take a crystal which is like this. Can you see this? A single crystal. They have particles here. Now, if you know what is this distance, you know ABC. Yes or no?
Yes,
Hello?
Yes, sir.
yes.
If you know what is this angle, you know alpha, beta, gamma.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Clausius-Clapeyron equation is having some use to know either the delta H value or the temperature at which a liquid boils. If a liquid is boiling at a certain temperature, under a certain pressure condition, if you change the pressure, at what temperature it boils? The variation in the boiling point with respect to change in pressure can be worked out using Clausius-Clapeyron equation. Log P2 by P1 is equal to delta H by 2.303 R into what, sir? Into what? T2 minus T1 by T1, T2. This is a relationship. Somebody is asking me something different. I'm sorry. When I am talking to solid state, somebody asked me a doubt in solutions. I started answering his doubt and the entire class get confused. I'm sorry for this mistake. Very sorry. Very, very sorry.
Okay, sir.
I'm very sorry. I just got deviated. I'll come to it. See, somebody asked me n lambda is equal to 2d sin theta. First, I will clear it. Then I will come to Clausius-Clapeyron relation. Okay, sir? Hello, okay? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you take a single crystal like this, for example.
Yes, sir.
In the single crystal, you are putting, there are particles in the corners. It is simple. Now, if you know what is this length, what is this length, what is this length, you know ABC, right? Now, how to find ABC? What we do is, we try to focus a X-ray. Okay, sir? Okay.
Yes, sir.
An X-ray touches this particle and gets reflected. Okay, sir? Another X-ray, let us use blue color, touches this particle and gets reflected. Any problem, sir? Is it possible? Hello?
No, sir.
Hello?
It's touching the corner particle before.
Sir, it is hitting this particle and getting deflected. The another X-ray is traveling this extra length and hitting here and getting deflected. Any problem there?
No, sir.
Or if you want, I will change the diagram. Okay? These are the particles. Don't worry about the shape. Now you want to know this distance technically. Yes, sir? Yes, sir? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Now you are focusing on X-ray. It is touching here, getting deflected. Any problem?
No, sir.
Another X-ray, let us take this color here. This getting this particle and getting deflected. Is it possible, sir? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Now, this X-ray and this X-ray, if I consider, a square like this, I would say one interesting thing that this X-ray and this X-ray will support each other. If they positively interfere with each other, their strength will increase. This is X-ray. If the wavelength of this X-ray and if these both are undergoing constructive interference, then the X-ray strength will increase and on the screen it can cause a brightness or a diffraction pattern. I repeat, when two rays undergo constructive interference, their strength will increase and they will be able to cause the diffraction pattern. Are we clear about it, sir? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, these two waves will be in phase only if this second ray, this X-ray, the second ray is, let us use a different color. The second X-ray is traveling extra distance. Don't you think so, sir? Hello? This second X-ray is traveling extra distance than this. It is just going away like this. It is making an extra travel. Yes or no? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Now, the extra distance traveled by the second X-ray must be equal to L lambda. Then only these two will be in phase. Two X-rays will be in phase only if the second X-ray traveled a distance which is equal to N lambda. It can be 1 lambda, it can be 2 lambda, it can be 3 lambda. Don't you think so, sir? Sir, this is the crest of this X-ray. This is the crest of second X-ray. This started here. This made some extra journey. The number of waves that pass this side must be 1 lambda, 2 lambda, 3 lambda. Then only these two will be exactly coinciding. If it is not equal to 1 lambda, it will come here, it will go down. They don't coincide. I don't know how to communicate. Are you understanding this idea?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Understand.
Now, the extra distance traveled by second X-ray can be proved to be equal to this angle of deflection, if you say is theta, must be equal to L lambda must be equal to, this is the distance d, it must be equal to 2d sine theta. Using simple trigonometry, I can prove it. Really, I can prove it. Okay, I will do one thing. I make a YouTube video and send across. Is that fine with you, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Today or tomorrow, I make a YouTube video on Bragg's equation, which is not there in your syllabus, but you wanted, so I will make a video. Or ready-made videos are available if you check. Should we check right away?
Your wish, sir.
Sir, you make a video, sir.
Okay, I will make a video, oblige. Now, my point is, I have a lot other plans for today. So this is out of portion thing, but you wanted, I will do it. Definitely, I will do it. Now, somebody wanted me Clausius-Clapeyron equation. This is a Clausius-Clapeyron equation is from solutions. Yet a pressure P2 and a pressure P1, if delta H VAP is the latent heat of vaporization for any liquid, maybe water, 2.303 R is universal gas constant into 1 by T 1 minus 1 by T. Okay, sir? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Suppose a liquid is boiling, water is boiling at 100 degrees centigrade, 373 K, at a pressure of, suppose, 1 atmosphere. Now you make the pressure as 0.8 atmospheres. At what temperature it will boil? Can be known using this relationship. Okay, sir? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello? The same equation can be written as this. This is derived from thermodynamics. Log P2 by P1 is equal to delta H VAP, latent heat of vaporization, by 2.303 R into T1 T2 by T2 minus T1. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a useful relationship to know the boiling point of a liquid under different pressures. That is the use of it. But I don't think in an NCERT book they said anything about it. Did they say anything about it?
No, sir. Did not come across.
So again, on this, we have to make a YouTube video if you have a doubt. My rule is in the class, I want to discuss what is there in NCERT. What is there, not there in NCERT, maybe it is useful for advance that we have to do somehow in the extra. Because otherwise, it would be difficult for us to cover the syllabus. The boiling point constants, also there is a thermodynamic equation. That is, that boiling point constant, somebody is asking about boiling point constant, I would call it as Kb. Kb is called the ebuloscopic constant, or it is called as elevation boiling point constant. Kf is called the depression freezing point constant. These Kf, Kb values are also related to delta H, and there is a derivation related to them. In fact, in the material I have said those derivations are shown, but they are not there in NCERT. If you want, even again, you have to make an extra video on that.
No, sir. No need.
Okay, sir. So, first, my problem is mainly the main exam is focused on what is there in the NCERT. So, NCERT we have to master. For advanced, definitely we have to understand what is Clausius-Clapeyron equation. Maybe what is the L lambda is equal to 3 sin theta Bragg's equation. That we can do. First, let us complete the portion that is there. So that is the idea I have. Definitely, we have a lot of time. Slowly, we can clarify your doubts. I think overall, you got an idea. What is a solid? Solid is that which has a closed packed arrangement of particles in 3 dimensions. In every solid, a fundamental structure is getting repeated. If the repetition is continuing in a long distance as well as in short distance, then that is called a crystalline solid. In a crystalline solid, there are 4 features. A true crystalline solid has a definite melting point. A true crystalline solid has different mechanical properties in different planes, that is, they are anisotropic. A true crystalline solid has a definite pattern of breaking, that is called cleavage planes, and every crystal iron solid is characterized by a unit cell that has characteristic axial lengths ABC and axial angles alpha beta gamma. Based on these types, there are fundamentally 7 types of crystal systems: cubic, tetragonal, orthorhombic, rhombohedral, hexagonal, monoclinic, triclinic. And in each variant, say in a cubic system, how the particles are existing. If they are confined only to corners, it is simple cube. If the particles are their corners also in face centers, it is face-centered cube, or it can be a body-centered cube. And in a 3-dimensional lattice, a collection of particles in 3 dimensions is called a lattice. In a lattice, definitely we are looking at the number of particles surrounding each particle. There are different types of packing, and usually we notice in a ABC pattern, each particle is immediately surrounded by 12 particles. 6 particles in its own plane, 3 above, 3 below. Notice that this is an efficient way of packing things. Based on how particles are existing in a simple cube, body-centered cube, face-centered cube, certain space is occupied, certain space is empty. More is the space occupied, more is the efficiency. And we know that the face-centered cube is most efficient and a simple cube is least efficient. We have made calculations based on it. And in a solid state, our main problem was how many types of gaps are there, and tetrahedral voids, octahedral voids difference, how to arrive at the formula. Also, we have struggled to...
Solid state chapter is very important.
Solid state chapter is
Important, sir.
I don't know. Solid state is required even in engineering. In engineering, first year physics, if you have a subject, there is solid state in that. My daughter got 98% in that subject because I only taught. The same thing, whatever you study here, will continue in engineering. So this chapter is not really tough. It is simple. You require patience to read it. If you feel difficult, you can leave it. For IIT point of view, itne khas nahi hai. From IIT point of view, solutions chapter is more important. Electrochemistry is more important. From these 2 chapters and kinetics, you get definitely 3 questions. Solid state, sometimes they are asking, sometimes not. I clarified your doubt, sir?
Yes,
Hello?
sir.
You feel this chapter is very difficult? Hello?
No, sir.
So in solid state, what we notice is the way the solids exist and the density measurements. Density is equal to mass by volume. Mass is equal to number of particles in a unit cell into their molar mass divided by Avogadro number. That divided by A cube, where A is called axial length, A cube. If it is a simple cube. If it is any other type of cube, you have to take ABC. Okay. Length, breadth, and height. So calculation of density problems are there, defects are there, Frenkel defect, Schottky defect. And also there is a note on electrical properties, magnetic properties. That's all. I don't know.
Once when you explain electric and magnetic properties.
You know one thing, sir, we bank on, I don't know, can't go to electrochemistry then. Then we drop electrochemistry, we stop electrochemistry, okay? We go to solid state again. Okay, sir?
Okay.
But this way you will be in trouble. You have to complete the syllabus.
No, sir, in 10 minutes you explain that, sir. After that you start.
Excuse me, sir, what did you say?
In 10 minutes you explain electrical and magnetic properties, then you start electrochemistry. From NCERT you explained, sir.
That's
Will
what
be.
I'm going to do. Because we have that which is to be covered, very important. Oh, this is solution chapter. Solid state. These are magnetic properties. A solid can conduct electric current, then it is called a conductor. And a conductor is like, say, copper, your silver, your aluminum. They are all very good conductors. If you measure their conductance is in the order of 10 to the power 7 ohm inverse per meter. Notice, if it is varying between 10,000 or 10 to the power 4 ohm inverse per meter to 10 to the power 7 ohm inverse per meter, that is conducting nicely, then that is called conductor. Silver is supposed to be one of the very good conductors. After silver, copper is a good conductor. After copper, aluminum is a good conductor. Then you are wondering, sir, if silver is a good conductor, why can't they use silver wire for street electrical connections? Why silver is not used, sir?
It is
They're expensive and hard to extract.
Thieves are taking away copper wire itself. If silver wire is there, they take away even poles. You trust me. The second category of material that cannot conduct electric current may be like cotton, maybe like diamond, maybe like rubber, maybe like plastic. They are called insulators. Their conductance is so low that lies between 10 to the power minus 20 to 10 to the power minus 10 ohm inverse per meter. Is the ohm inverse per meter inverse, you can say Siemens per meter. Siemens is the unit for conductance. Siemens per meter. Semiconductor is having a conductance ranging between 10 to the power minus 6 to 10 to the power 4 Siemens per meter. So the conductance of current, the allowance of current to pass through is due to movement of electrons. I would say it is a relay of electrons. Electrons are not just traveling. There is a relay. You know what is relay?
Yes, sir.
In a 400 meters relay, first fellow will run for 100 meters and give the stick to second fellow. Then second fellow will run next 100 meters. He will give the stick to third fellow. Then third fellow will run another 100 meters and then he will hand out the stick to the last place. It is called relay. Same fellow is not running. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
In good olden days, if you have to go to Delhi, you have to go on a horse. The same horse cannot go up to Delhi. What to do?
Different horses.
So the same person used to maintain the horse stables, one in Hyderabad, one in Nizamabad, one in say Sholapur, one in some Pune. Like that, he used to have 20, 30 horse stables. So you can take a horse here, you can travel on the horse up to Nizamabad. In Nizamabad, you hand over the horse and you take another horse. You understand?
Yes, sir.
This is called relay. If you apply potential difference, if you hit a metal surface with high potential, immediately the electrons in that area will travel to some distance and give the energy to next line of electrons. Like that, very quickly electrons will have a relay and electrical conductance happens. It is a transmission of energy. Okay, sir?
Yes.
So metallic conductors are conducting due to relay of electrons. In the book, they wrote moment of electron, that's okay. And a metal conducts electric current in a solid state, also in molten state. You take iron, that is a conductor of current. You melt the iron, that is also a conductor of current. Whereas if you take sodium chloride, the ionic compound, that in solid state cannot conduct current. But if you melt the sodium chloride, that is called fused mass, then it can conduct current. The reason, the sodium chloride is conducting current due to movement of ions. The ions can move freely only if it is a liquid. In solid, ions cannot move freely. Therefore, ionic compounds conduct current only in molten state or only when they are dissolved in water. If you are dissolving salt in water, then ions can freely move within the entire aqueous solution. Therefore, aqueous solutions of ionic compounds or the molten masses of ionic compounds can conduct current. That is called electrolytic conduction, about which we are going to study in a topic called electrochemistry. Now we talk about conduction in solids only. In a solid metal, there are so many atoms. In every atom, there are atomic orbitals. These atomic orbitals can combine to give molecular orbitals. Do you know, sir? Whenever two atomic orbitals combine, you get one bonding molecular orbital of low energy, one anti-bonding molecular orbital of high energy. Suppose if you are combining 10 atomic orbitals, you get 5 bonding molecular orbitals, 5 anti-bonding molecular orbitals. Total number of molecular orbitals produced is equal to total number of atomic orbitals combining. And half of the molecular orbitals of low energy called BMOs, half of remaining are called ABMOs. Okay, sir? So many atoms combine to give so many molecular orbitals. All the molecular orbitals produced thereby have very close energy, so they exist together. That makes a band of molecular orbitals. If this band of so many molecular orbitals is not fully filled, if it is partially filled, or if this band of bonding molecular orbitals are very close to anti-bonding molecular orbitals which are overlapping, then this material, electrons can happily travel into empty space from the filled space. That makes it a good conductor. However, if the gap between bonding molecular orbital and anti-bonding molecular orbital is very large, in that large gap where the bonding molecular orbital bands are fully filled, this electron cannot jump into empty bond. Therefore, it cannot have the relay because there is a danger zone between. Therefore, it cannot conduct current. In some material like silicon, germanium, there is a gap between filled bonding molecular orbitals bands and empty anti-bonding molecular orbitals bands. But the gap is narrow. Therefore, if you are giving a little bit heat energy from the filled band to empty band, electron can jump, it starts conducting. Such material is called semiconductor. So there are 3 cases. When the molecular orbital band itself is partially filled, electrons can move within that. When the molecular orbital band which is fully filled is overlapped with the empty anti-bonding molecular orbital bands, then the electrons get facility to move. In both cases, they are conductors. The gap between the filled and empty band is very wide, that is insulator. Very close, that is called semiconductor. Are we clear about it, sir? Hello?
Yes.
In the semiconductor, you require a little bit heat energy to promote the electron. It is itself acting as a semiconductor. It is called intrinsic semiconductor. Sometimes you generate a semiconductor by adding an impurity into the material like silicon and germanium. The addition of impurity will create some change in the system so that it conducts better. The type of semiconductor formed by adding an impurity or doping is called the extrinsic semiconductor. Extrinsic because external material is added. Are we clear about it, sir? Hello, sir. So what is being doped if you carefully see? If you say, take silicon or germanium, each silicon or germanium atom has 4 electrons. Therefore, it has filled bands and empty bands which are very close. It is making 4 bonds. Now, when the silicon is added with an impurity that is belonging to 15th group, silicon is in 14th group, it has 4 electrons. If you are adding an impurity of an element belonging to 15th group like phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. I repeat, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth. These are the elements of 15th group. You can't add a nitrogen because nitrogen is a gas. Nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth are there in 15th group. They have 5 electrons. If you are adding that 5 electron fellow, say if you are adding arsenic, every silicon atom is making 4 bonds. It is surrounded by 4 electron pairs. You can see 4 electron pairs that is happening. To the silicon, he added arsenic. Now this arsenic fellow has 5 electrons. 4 are making bonds like any other silicon, but there is an extra electron. This extra electron can freely move within the lattice. That gives it a conductance, and that is called N-type semiconductor. N means normal. Any other conductor conducts electricity due to moment of electron. It is also conducting due to moment of electron. Therefore, 14th group element doped with a 15th group element can generate N-type semiconductor. However, if a 14th group element is added with a 13th group element like boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, helium, which has only 3 electrons. This boron has only 3 electrons. The 3 made 3 electron pair bonds with neighboring germanium. And now the boron is not having the 4th electron. Though the top germanium is offering 1 electron, boron has no electron to make a bond. So there is a hole. To fill the hole here, an electron from neighboring place can come and occupy here. When a neighboring electron comes here, again you get a hole here. To fill the gap, another neighboring electron will come. Like that, when the electron is shifting into the hole, you are spreading the hole. The direction of moment of hole is opposite to the direction of moment of electron. If electron is coming forward, the hole is going backward. This allows the current to flow. This type of conductor is called P-type semiconductor or positive hole type semiconductor. These are 2 types of semiconductors we come across. So far you have learned in what way the semiconductors, conductors and insulators differ with respect to conductance. One has as much as 10 to the power 7 ohms inverse per meter, and the insulator has as low as 10 to the power minus 20 Siemens per meter conductance. And you understood the difference between electronic conductor and electrolytic conductor. Electronic conductor, all metals, cadmium sulfide-like materials, which conduct current due to moment of electrons. Electrolytic conductors like sodium chloride, calcium chloride, they conduct in molten state or in solution state. And how to make semiconductors? 2 types we have seen. Next point is the N-type, P-type semiconductors are widely used in what is called diodes. In a diode is a combination of N-type and P-type semiconductors, which is used in electronic devices. They are called rectifiers. What is a rectifier? You can check in Google. It is there in an electronic device used in your televisions and so on. The transistors are actually made by sandwiching, layer by layer, one type of semiconductor to the other. For example, between 2 P-type semiconductors, if you put N-type semiconductor, it is called PNP type transistor. Similarly, you can have NPN type transistor. The transistors are used really to increase the sound output in transistors in your radios, in your electronic devices. Solar cell, photovoltaic cells, all they require this type of materials. In fact, this paragraph is the subject matter for 5 years course of engineering called as electronic engineering. Only this para you study in 5 years. And what is the name of that engineering? Hello. Electronic and communication engineering. But here in chemistry course, I say only this much. Sir, germanium and silicon are in 14th group. They have a characteristic valency of 4 and they make 4 bonds. In a diamond, they are very strong, which cannot be broken. Electrons cannot move easily, so it is an insulator. In silicon and germanium, these 4 bonds are somewhat weak. Electrons can just move if you heat a little bit into empty anti-bonding molecular orbitals, so they are semiconductors. Now, interestingly, the 4 electrons, if you get by mixing 2 different elements, where one has 3 electrons belonging to 30th group, the other one has 5 electrons belonging to 15th group. If you combine these two, one has 3 electrons, one has 5 electrons. On an average, 3 plus 5 by 2, they have 4 electrons. So a combination of 13th group element, boron, aluminum, gallium, indium, thallium with a 15th group element like nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth can generate on an average 4 valence electrons. But these bonds cannot be as strong as 14th group elements. So the electrons can easily get separated and stop conducting. So you can make a semiconductor by inducing average 4 electrons per atom by mixing 13 and 15 group elements or 12 and 16 group elements. Sir, what are the elements of 12th group? Zinc, cadmium, mercury. What are the elements of 16th group? Oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. So by combining zinc, cadmium, mercury with oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium, you can generate an average valency of 4. You should know the examples of these compounds. Zinc sulfide. Zinc is 12th group, sulfur is 16th group. Cadmium sulfide, cadmium selenide, mercury telluride, all these are such examples. In these compounds, the bonds are not perfectly covalent and the ionic character depends on the electronegativities of 2 elements. The bond can easily break and they can conduct current due to moment of error. This para is very, very important. It's interesting to learn that transition metal oxides show interesting electrical properties like titanium oxide, chromium dioxide, mainly used in tape recorder tapes. In good olden days, there were cassettes. Sir, have you seen cassette?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Those rolled up tapes.
Have you seen a cassette? Cassette is having a plastic dabba where there is a fine tape. When the tape is moving, you can hear this sound. Have you seen cassette recorder?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And the tape is coated with CRO. In fact, my students have done a project, estimation of CrO2 in a cassette tape. So TiO, CrO2, ReO3, they are very good conductors, they behave like metals. Especially rhenium trioxide conducts so nicely like copper. The oxides of vanadium and titanium like TiO3, depending on some temperature they are insulators, some temperature they are semiconductors, some temperature they are conductors, and at a different temperature they are very good conductors. So whose conductance depend on temperature means VO, VO2, VO3, TiO3. Which will show metallic conductance means TiO, CrO2, ReO3. Which has conductance like copper metal means ReO3. Which is an example for a semiconductor made by combination of 12 and 16 group means anyone you can take. Zinc sulfide, CdS, CdSc, mercury, telluride. What is an example for P-type semiconductor means that where 14th group element combined with 13th group element. What is an N-type semiconductor means where 14th group element added with 15th group element. What is the value of conductance? What is the difference between these three? Okay, sir. These are electrical properties. Now, as far as magnetic properties are concerned, an electron which is there in any atom can rotate in one direction. A charged body rotating in one direction can generate magnetic field. If there is single electron, its rotation in one particular direction generates a magnetic field that is attracted by external magnetic field. So if you put a material that has unpaired electron in a magnetic field, it is weakly attracted. That is called paramagnetism. To which extent it is attracted by external magnet depends on how many unpaired electrons it has per atom. The formula to get this measure for magnetic moment, root of n into n plus 2, where n is the number of unpaired electron an atom has in the valence shell. Root of n into n plus 2. The unit for measuring this magnetic attraction is called magnetic moment, expressed in Bohr magneton. The Bohr magneton is equal to 9.27 into 10 to the power minus 24 joules per Tesla. Instead of joules per Tesla, you can say ampere meter square. We have to remember this value. Remember, sir, the Bohr magneton is the unit for magnetic moment. More is the magnetic moment, strong is the attraction. More is the unpaired electron, more is the attraction. Number of unpaired electrons in an atom is n, means magnetic moment is equal to root of n into n plus 2, square root of n into n plus 2. Notice noble gas atoms have no unpaired electrons, so their magnetic moment is 0. They are repelled by external magnets. They are called diamagnetic. The second group elements, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, they have only electron pairs. They are also diamagnetic. Sir, if you take Mn, manganese 3d54s2, manganese has 5 unpaired electrons, so it is paramagnetic. If you take Mn plus 7 ion, permanganate ion, permanganate, Mn plus 7 has no unpaired electrons, so it is diamagnetic. Look at, what do you think is the nature of first group metals, lithium, sodium, potassium?
Paramagnetic, sir.
They are paramagnetic because they have one unpaired electron. Do you know chromium is 3d54s1? Therefore, chromium is highly paramagnetic. 3d54s1, 6 unpaired electrons. Sir, Zn plus 2 is diamagnetic because Zn plus 2 has no unpaired electrons. So you should know the configuration and relate to magnetic behavior. Paramagnetism is a property of individual atoms or molecules which have unpaired electrons. O2 is paramagnetic because it has 2 unpaired electrons in anti-bonding molecular orbitals. Copper plus 2 is paramagnetic because it has 1 unpaired electron, 3d9. Iron plus 3 is paramagnetic because iron plus 3 has a configuration like 3d5. Any configuration that has unpaired electrons makes it paramagnetic. I already stated that benzene, water, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, cotton, diamond, sodium chloride, benzene, all they are having no unpaired electrons. They are all diamagnetic. Notice that NO2 has 1 unpaired electron on nitrogen, paramagnetic. N2O5, no unpaired electrons, diamagnetic. Paramagnetism, diamagnetism are properties of individual atoms. But sometimes, if so many atoms or so many molecules, unpaired electrons, magnetic moments join together, they make a domain. When they are joining, all moments, all magnetic fields generated in all clusters of atoms are supporting each other, then that is called ferromagnetic. Some clusters magnetic field generated is opposed by some other clusters, but overall most of them in one direction. That is called ferrimagnetic. 50% magnetic field or domains field is opposed by another 50%. As in
Anti-ferromagnetic.
the case of C, it is called anti-ferromagnetic.
Sir, C is very magnetic.
Notice, sir, in B, up, down, cancellation. Therefore, it is called antiferromagnetism. In C, no doubt some domains are opposing, but most of them are in one direction. It is ferrimagnetic. Notice, all in one direction ferro. Just one set is cancelling, the other's effect is antiferro. Few cancellations, but largely in one direction. That is called ferrimagnetic. Can you see that clearly? Hello?
Yes.
Students are requested to remember examples for these three variants. Ferromagnetism is shown by CrO2. It is shown by iron, cobalt, nickel. Gadolinium, Gd. You have to remember clearly iron, cobalt, nickel, gadolinium, CrO2 or ferromagnetic. These solids can be used to make permanent magnets. If you are heating a ferromagnetic material, it loses its magnetic ability, it becomes paramagnetic. Magnets will be poor magnets if you are heating. An example for antiferromagnetic material is MnO. When MnO is strongly heated, it again becomes paramagnetic. The ferrimagnetic materials are called ferrates generally. For example, magnesium ferrate MgFe2O4, magnetite Fe3O4, zinc ferrate ZnFe2O4. These ferrates are examples for ferrimagnetic material. That's a note on electrical and magnetic properties as given in NCERT. Sir, is there any difficulty in that? Hello?
No, sir. No, sir.
Try to read the textbook, sir, please. So again, in this chapter, defects are important, formula are important, density problems are important, 7 crystal systems, examples are important. That is not really a tough chapter. So ladies and gentlemen, the topic under discussion today is electrochemistry. Sir, should I go to electrochemistry, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We don't have satisfaction. I don't know. Okay. Slowly we go. So while teaching itself, I go slow, sir, so that you have no confusion. No need to repeat if we do slowly. Slowly. Sir, what is the difference between electronic conductor and electrolytic conductor, sir? It conducts due to movement of electrons. It conducts due to what, sir? Movement of ions.
Ion.
Okay, sir?
Yes.
Sir, it is always solid, sir. It is either a fused mass or an aqueous solution. Okay, sir? Hello?
Yes, sir.
As you rise temperature, conductance, here as you rise temperature, conductance increase. Can you see the difference? Hello? Whenever you raise the temperature of a solid conductor, electrons get a random motion and conductance decreases. Whenever you are heating an electrolytic conductor, the liquid molecules can rapidly move, so conductance increases. Are you clear, sir?
Yes.
Next point is, it involves no transfer of matter. It involves transfer of matter. In fact, it involves no chemical change. Whereas electrolytic conductor, electronic conductor, it involves chemical change. In fact, in this chemical change, one fellow will lose electron, the other fellow will gain electron. One undergo oxidation, one undergo reduction. Unfortunately, in electronic conductors, if you are raising the temperature, electrons get a random movement. They don't go in one direction. They get distracted from the path where they are supposed to go. Due to randomization in the motion of electrons, their flow in one direction is hampered, because of which they become poor conductors. So copper at room temperature is a better conductor than copper at 100 degrees centigrade. Notice, copper will become a superconductor if you decrease the temperature to minus 200 degrees centigrade. Notice, for solids, electronic conductors, the less is the temperature, the better is conductance. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
When the electricity is being conducted in an electronic conductor, there is no particular heating effect. Whereas in electrolytic conductors, solutions become hot when current passes. So these are the 6 differences. First difference, solid, liquid. Second difference, conductance due to electrons, conductance due to movement of ions. Third difference, if I raise temperature, it drops. Fourth difference, no transfer of matter in electronic conductor. Fifth difference, there is no chemical reaction. And this is the set of differences between these two. Are you clear, sir?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Electrolytic conductors, depending on how many ions they are furnishing, if they are producing large number of ions and if the ions can easily move, they are called strong electrolytes. Concentrated acid, sulfuric acid, nitric acid, HCl, NaOH, KOH, they are all excellent electrolytic conductors, strong electrolytes. Acetic acid, ammonium hydroxide, which it dissociate less, are called weak electrolytes. Are you clear about that, sir? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Now we are wondering, how to generate current? That is a big problem 200 years back. This is 2020. In 1820, power is not there in any country. You know that? Nobody knew what is the electric bulb. People were using only candles or oil lamps in 1820, exactly 200 years back. Even in 1870, people don't know electric bulb, 150 years back. In the year 1920, 100 years back, probably Hyderabad got electrical bulbs. But many places in India, they were not having any electric current. You know that? Do you know that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Sir, when I was a boy studying 3rd class, there was no power in my home. My father was very scared of. If you apply for electric current, you have to pay 6 rupees. You know? 6 rupees means there is a very big money. I am talking about the year 1966. My father said we cannot afford all those luxury things. When I was studying 5th class, I used to take a lantern to go to my tuition master's home. In my village, only 2-3 houses have electric current. Okay?
Yes.
What is that? So how to generate current is a big problem. Sir, can you suggest me how to generate current? Scientists have noticed that a metal like zinc has a tendency to lose electrons. Copper ions, which are there in copper sulfate, which is in blue color, have a tendency to gain electrons. Therefore, if you put a blue color copper sulfate, what is the color? Okay, let's apply blue color. Blue color copper sulfate. Okay, sir? In a copper plate. And then if you put a zinc dabba, a zinc plate, and then again, blue color, green color I got. Blue color copper, and again zinc. Like that, 20 plates if you take, you touch bottom plate and touch a top zinc plate. Then immediately you get a shock. So it was a game in those days. It is called what? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Listening.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Sir, you are muted, sir.
Hello? Hello?
Hello,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So this is called voltaic power, voltaic pile. Voltaic pile. Voltaic pile was used by a magician in a ship in the year 1850. To entertain the public, he used to generate a source which gives mild shock, and people used to ask them to touch above and below. They used to get shock and get kick and used to pay, say, 5 cents. So the electric power was initially used by magicians, you know. Now let us see how this electric power has come and how it is relevant to our chemistry in the next class to come. Now our time is up. Thank you. We will be studying electrochemistry next week. Okay, sir?
Thank you,
Sir, I have one material. I am scared of sending this book to you because your college may object me. Because others' material, how can you send like that? They may ask.
No, sir. No,
How
sir.
can I
No
address this
objection.
problem? No, from your side,
No one will object.
You are
Yes, sir.
sure? Then how
Sir.
to share this book with you, sir?
Sir,
Tell me how
in
can I
our
share?
group. In our group.
Okay, I'll
Yes, sir.
post it to your group, but don't make it public. Others feel bad. Okay,
Okay.
I'm closing the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.